And last speaker before consultations will be Tim Neng from Golden Gate Lawyers, specialized in dispute resolution. So if you do have any disputes with Chinese partners, I think he's the right person to speak to.
Yeah, thank you for your patience. So we can now go through every aspect of the Chinese legal system or Chinese dispute resolution system in China. So 20 minutes, I will try to give you some basic fundamental ideas plus some specific case. I will feel happy, so whenever I leave the room, so you know some very fundamental parts of Chinese legal system plus some real case. So I'll go through like this: litigation in China, arbitration in China, conciliation, enforcement, and general advice. So when we talk about dispute resolution, we talk about litigation with Chinese People's Court, and arbitration in China, which becomes very, very popular recently, and also conciliation. Conciliation is very new, a very unique concept in China. So we'll give some very good cases. You will love that. And also we talk about, just in case you have a arbitration award made by ICC or Stockholm arbitration or VIA, whatever. So whenever you enforce the arbitration award in China, what's the problem you may confront with? And also, I try to give you some general advice before we conclude the speech. This is a Chinese court system. We have Supreme Court in China, in Beijing, only one, and we have High Court in each province or in a big city like Beijing, Shenzhen, Shanghai, Chengdu, and we have intermediate level courts at each major city level, on the city level, and we have multiple, lots of county level court plus district level court. If you have a big city like Beijing or Tianjin, and you have lots of districts, so the district level court is the primary. So primary courts, intermediate courts, high courts, and Supreme Court. This is like a federal legal system. So China will apply a two-instance court system. That means whenever you file a case with a lower level court, you can appeal to an upper level court, but you have only one chance to appeal. So whenever you finish the two-instance, so there would be a re-examination procedure, but that is not mandatory. So the only two-instance court system are mandatory in China. If you apply, start from the first level, you have a chance. You have only one chance, which is different to quite many jurisdictions in the world. Most foreign-related disputes are handled by intermediate level courts. That's very unique in China, because Chinese court, we want to guarantee the quality of the judgment whenever they hear foreign-related matters, like conflict disputes, IP infringements, or enforce of foreign arbitration awards. You start from the intermediate level courts, which with the major cities. No time limitation. For domestic case, we have time limitation. It's about 6 months or 9 months, but of course, subject to extension. For most foreign-related cases, can be heard, can be concluded within 9 or 12 months from the date of filing. But of course, it's subject to extension. Some cases can go very far. So we will come up with a case right after, which shows a case can go 12 years, even long. Documents review instead of witness are heavily relied on. The Chinese hearing are very short, only take like half day, maybe one hearing, maybe two hearings, and each hearing can take 1 day. How judges make their decision? They rely on documentation. You have to submit your evidence before or after the hearing. So basically, it is documentation review. We heavily rely on documents. So when we have litigation in China or arbitration in China, please prepare all the documentation in good order and as many as possible. Yeah. The jury, we have different meaning in China. We do have jury to hear a small case or straightforward case, but the jury in China, we mean different. The jury is not the ordinary people. So jury are often the school professors or the experts from some institutes. The judge may or may not listen to them. When we have a trial with 3 people for a big case, they normally heard by a trial with 3 judges. So within the 3 judges, you may receive, you may have 1 or 2 jury people, but jury is not ordinary people. They are experts. But the judge, here in the case, may not be the decision maker. So there are always lots of elements, factors, cause impact to a judgment. So the judge in the hearing room, he may raise lots of questions, but we know, the lawyer know, he may or may not the decision maker. There are lots of people behind him. A small percentage of judgment made by the first instance court can be overruled by the appellate court. So be careful. So whenever you have court case, try to, don't say, oh, China, we have an appeal opportunity, we can overrule this matter. No. Pay attention, try your best to win the first instance court, because the percentage is very minimal. How much? How many? It's like 5%, maybe 10%, but that is internal requirements or standards. Whenever the court review a performance of judge, so one fundamental criteria is the percentage of overruling. So if his judgment is overruled by the higher level court many times, so he has problem to be promoted. Yeah, that is a very famous case, which was concluded at the end of 2012, very recently, relates to a issue called VIE, variable interest element. So lots of foreign investment, as Mark said before, not every industry are open to foreign investment. So some industry, like a banking system, are strictly, foreign investment are strictly prohibited. You cannot invest into Chinese bank. So one of the Hong Kong company, very famous one, very big one. So they built up a very comprehensive measures with a middle company, CASME. This is a Chinese company. So the foreign company, so within like 2 or 3 years, invest totally over $10 million into the Chinese company, borrowing, investment, loaning, whatever, by whatever means. And they use the money to invest into China Minsheng Bank, which is a very famous bank right in China, among the top 10. Minsheng Bank make big money. So the question is, whenever the Minsheng Bank creates lots of profits, so how you pay the profits? That's the debate. The debate before the 2 instance court and eventually by the Supreme Court was, so how you evaluate all the arrangement between the Hong Kong company and the Chinese company. So it's a loan or is investment. So that's basically, that's the dispute. If the investment is regarded as a loan, the company only need to repay the principal plus interest. But however, if the investment is regarded as investment, they deserve profits, which is, we talk about big money. This case took over 12 years. So after the 2 instances and eventually heard by the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court very smart. They separate the system by 2 parts. One part is between the Chinese company, invest into the Minsheng company. They say, oh, that's lawful, no problem. It's a Chinese company, whenever they invest in Minsheng company, goes through all the procedure, receive all the approvals, so no problem. But however, the arrangement between the Chinese company and the Hong Kong company are void. So even they have built up lots of contracts, they have lots of deals, selling agreement by lots, that's illegal because Chinese law, under Chinese law, foreign investment is totally prohibited to invest into Chinese bank. So we have lots of cases right now in China, like Sina model, so it's a famous one. So currently I'm representing a famous multinational company from Korea. They have the same similar problem. So it's risky. So the conclusion was the Chinese company, based on the series of fairness, so even the arrangement between the Chinese company and the Hong Kong company are void, illegal, but based on the series of fairness. So they should compensate the Hong Kong company 40% of the market value and all interest of the disputed shares. Yeah, so the arrangement is deemed as invalid, illegal. But however, they need to pay more than the interest, which is 40% of the market value. Yeah, so that's a good case because that shows The case could take very long time, not only by the two instances, you can go a very long time and eventually heard by Supreme Court. And the Chinese court will judge the matter not only based on law, but also based on some like fairness or justice principle. This is a very brief introduction about the Chinese arbitration system. So we have overall 180 arbitration commissions around China, located in all the major cities. And all arbitration commissions are independent each other, so they don't control each other, so everybody is independent. All arbitration commissions, literally speaking, are entitled to hear foreign-related matters, but most cases are concluded by this big four, CTAC. So I have one page about introduction about the CTAC. And Beijing Arbitration Commission, of course, Shanghai International Arbitration, Shenzhen International Arbitration. These two are formally subsidiary of CTAC. 1 or 2 years ago, they separate. So the Shenzhen Arbitration, Shenzhen International Arbitration, and the Shanghai International Arbitration Center, so they are separate. They become independent arbitration body in China. CTAC was established in 1954. It's one of the major institutional arbitration bodies in the world. There are lots of cases, lots of. Very unique, so if you look at the CTAC, they have a panel arbitrators, which is different to most of the arbitration institutes in the world. So the list includes about 1,000 arbitrators, among which 300 are foreigners, including from people from Hong Kong, they're from the United States, from the UK. So they try to make a pretty diversified. The rules has been revised many times. The most recent amendments with lots of significant changes were made in 2012, very recently. So CTAC tried very hard to make the arbitration institute make themselves more international. A lot of workload probably. Yeah, I think CTAC received the most number, the biggest number in terms of the numbers of cases in the world. Arbitration institute in China, so different to many arbitration institutes around the world, they are not independent. They have close connection with the local governments. So the secretary or the key leaders are appointed by the local government. So financially, sometimes financially sponsored. But of course, lots of arbitration institutes, whenever they hear lots of cases, they can survive themselves. But for many other local arbitration institutes, they receive financial support from the local government. So if the key persons are appointed by the local government, if you receive financial support from the local government, you can't be independent. In most cases, Chinese law is applied and at least one party based in China. So CTAC, CTAC is try very hard to be international, but by far as of today, so they hear the cases where at least one party is from China. FIE, foreign invested enterprise, is deemed as Chinese domestic company, and always they use Chinese law. There are lots of other unique characters. For example, the delivery of documentation. In most arbitration institutes, the documentation was exchanged by the party themselves. But in the CTAC and in China, in every arbitration institute, the documentation are delivered via the arbitration institute. So you have to go through the arbitration body first, and the CTAC and the arbitration institute is responsible for delivery of documentation to the party. Very fundamental. The arbitration, so because we know who played the key role in arbitration is the tribunal. The tribunal normally you have 3 or 1 for most of the cases are heard by a tribunal with 3 people. The third, China, is not appointed by the other 2 arbitrators, but by the parties. If the parties fail to appoint a China, so the China will be selected by CTAC. Because, as a matter of fact, in most of the cases, the parties cannot have a concept about the China. So the China is always determined by CTAC. If there's no nationality requirements, so the China are always Chinese. So that's the case. If you have at least one party is from China, and if the China is appointed by CTAC, so you can see in most tribunal, in most, not every, the Chinese arbitrators are dominant in most arbitration trials. Chinese languages is used in most procedures, but of course you can use English. If English is a grade on arbitration language, the hearing may likely. The hearing they may go through but in English, particularly whenever the clients are represented by local lawyers, and particularly if the arbitrators are Chinese. So even the arbitration agreement says the arbitration language should be in Chinese, but as a matter of fact, if the parties presenting before in the arbitration room are Chinese, they will use Chinese. But however, the award will be concluded in English. Lawyers, compared to the court, are given more opportunities, the time to present the case before the hearing, which is different to the court. Chinese court, the judge are very impatient. So the Chinese court, they have their own philosophy and a way, manner to handle the case. They normally don't give the lawyers enough time to present. The arbitration tribunal are, generally speaking, more flexible in recognizing evidence and the adoption of law. So I gave 2 cases here. So one case, so I represent both of them. In one case, which is about a hotel, local hotel, they engage a multinational management company to manage the hotel for 20 years. But after 5 years, the hotel came up with some reason, trying to terminate the agreement. That's very typical, because the Chinese company believe, oh, we learned enough. So, that's about, whenever we receive the menu, whenever we finish the 5 years experience, we know how to manage the hotel, so we don't need, and also, the foreign hotel management company are very expensive, so they try to come up with some reasons to terminate the contract. The tribunal, after review all the evidence, after the hearing, they believe all the reasons given by the hotel is not legitimate. Even you have some reason, but not legitimate. So the question is, to be honest, is about how to calculate the damage. So there's lots of theory, there's lots of practical measures to calculate the damage. This tribunal, they ruled, okay, they gave you 15 years management fee, but of course subject to lots of deduction. The cost will have some rate, but gave the hotel management company 15 years management fee as compensation. That's very unique. That's almost unlikely with Chinese court. Another case, that also represents this case, is about a penalty. It's a breach of contract. It's not complex in terms of the merits. So eventually it's about how much we have to pay the penalty. In the contract, the penalty clause was like every day is like small percentage against the unpaid payment. So they have like a formula. The breach of contract is pretty apparent. So it's a long day. It's over like half a year. So it's not how much. Chinese law say Chinese court or arbitration institute is entitled to adjust the amount of penalty if they believe the penalty is so high. That's the law, as of today. So the judge have liberty to make some deduction. In practice, for most arbitration, they use 20% as the maximum. So because they don't want to give a very high penalty, so normally the maximum amount is 20% of the unpaid fee. But this tribunal, they gave 52%. It was because during the hearing, the attorney of loser, they tried very hard to prolong the procedure. They came up with lots of Chinese strategy. First, so whenever we showed the court a documents with company chop, they said, no, the chop is fake. So we don't have such chop. The chop is fake, it's not authentic. So without the chop, you cannot recognize accept the evidence. Without the evidence, you cannot come up with the blah, blah, blah. So, this fake. So we went to the authority who had the copy of the chop, so we verified that exists. Later on, the attorney of the loser say, we need cancellation. So we took about 3 months to negotiate. We almost finished the settlement agreement. So we confirm every word of the settlement agreement, but later on, the other party said, no, our boss, we cannot, so they are a state-owned company, so we cannot receive approval from the authority. So the case has been prolonged, so which gave the tribunal very bad idea. So eventually, this is like a punitive damage. So the tribunal said, okay, very easy, based on the actual delay, which is about 6 months, so multiple the penalty rate, that's the result. There's another case I didn't list up here. Is I represent the IFC, which is a subsidiary of the World Bank. It's called the joint venture setup. They signed the joint venture agreement years ago, before the 2008. 2008 we have a big recession. So before the day they signed agreement, they believe, we have a very optimistic future. But after 2008, both parties realized very likely the goal of joint venture cannot be achieved. So both parties become not very enthusiastic about go forward. So a couple of years later, the Chinese party filed a lawsuit to say, no, the foreign party, they breached the contract, so they should compensate the losses we have spent, which is over a couple of million RMB, which is about $500,000 or something. So also, not only compensate the loss we have been suffered, but also continue the establishment of the joint venture. So that's the dispute between the Chinese before CTAC. And the tribunal was headed by the former secretary of Stockholm Arbitration Center, so because of nationality requirement. So one party from the United States, the other party is from China, so the third party, China, is from the third party from the former secretary of the Stockholm Arbitration Center. Yeah, so of course the tribunal is more interested, the key part is the willingness of the party, whether you really have intention to move forward or stop your cooperation. So the challenge made by the tribunal against the Chinese party was, so whenever you conclude the contract, so who is responsible to fail with the government to receive the approval? Of course, the Chinese party. So the tribunal asked the Chinese party, so what do you have done? So have you submitted the documentation in due process? They said yes. So anything you heard from the MOFCOM? They say no. MOFCOM is Chinese authority, very bureaucratic. So we filed the documentation, but we received nothing. So the tribunal said, weird. Okay, continue. Whenever you realize there are some problems that are challenges from MOFCOM, Chinese party, have you ever, in a timely manner, noticed the foreign party about the problem you have suffered? So don't just told me you complete your obligation. So let me know. So whenever you notice you receive some problems, have you noticed as a party? Second, have you jointly come up with some solutions to overcome the problems? If you fail to demonstrate, of course, Chinese party cannot. So the foreign party tribunal said, I realize. The real problem is not because of procedural problem caused by the government. The real problem is Chinese party and foreign party. You both don't want to move forward. And eventually, the result was, so the canceled contract plus the Chinese party should pay $1 million US dollar attorney fee, like a penalty. So very famous case. So we learned a lot from that. So these three cases gave a general picture about the arbitration in China is more flexible whenever they adopt the procedure and adopt the evidence and also adopt the law. That's why make the Chinese arbitration system is more relatively compared to Chinese court system more acceptable by the foreign investment. But of course, arbitration is subject to the judicial review by Chinese court. So we have a DOS mechanism, cancellation procedure by the court of where the award is made. So if the arbitration award is based in Beijing, go to the Beijing court. And also plus a court of where the enforcement may take place. That is where the asset is located or where they are registered. So the legal base for both procedures are pretty similar. Particularly when we talk about a foreign arbitration award, we refer to New York Convention. So I'll talk a bit about the enforcement in China of arbitration award. So generally speaking, China is very friendly to foreign arbitration award. So the percentage to overrule a foreign arbitration award is very minimal. we talk about procedural issue only. So based on New York Convention and based on the revised Chinese civil procedure law, so the review shall focus on the procedural issues rather than the merits of the case. It doesn't matter which law they refer, doesn't matter if it's good or bad or justice or not. It's based on whether you have some procedural problems within the arbitration procedure. The court ruling, of course, is final, subject to no appeal, and cancellation and non-enforcement of foreign-related arbitration award is subject to high-level court's approval. This is a very famous so-called internal review procedure. Relates to foreign arbitration award or foreign-related arbitration award made by Chinese arbitration institutes. So if you have if the lower level court they have some problem, if they have some hesitation, they want to say no, reject the arbitration award. They need approval from the high level and eventually the Supreme Court. So that means only the Supreme Court of China is authorized, is entitled to reject an arbitration award or cancel an arbitration agreement. We talk about foreign arbitration agreement, a foreign arbitration award or foreign-related arbitration award. So that's why we say basically we're pretty centralized, and the Chinese government is pretty friendly to Chinese Chinese arbitration. Cancellation. So Thomas told me this is very unique. This now happens in many other jurisdictions. So I have some slides about this, and we have some good cases about this. Not mandatory in the process of commercial institutes, but have become very popular. Cancellation negotiations are often organized after hearing has taken place, and the parties may reach a settlement by themselves out of the courtroom or by with the or presided by the court arbitrator. So two measures: either the parties made a settlement by themselves, so-called out of the courtroom, or during the process of arbitration or court procedure, presided by the court. The court will give lots of pressures of the parties. The court judgment will normally give strong hints and the possible results. Yeah, so the judge will tell you, so if you don't make a settlement in a case like such, there's a possible case like such, you are subject to. If the cancellation is successful, it depends on if the settlement agreement is made out of the courtroom, the party should withdraw the case. If the cancellation made by and presided by the court or arbitration, the court and arbitration will make a ruling or award. So the ruling and the award itself is enforceable. If any party in breach of the settlement, you can go to the court for enforcement. You don't need to refile the case, which is different to a out-of-court, out-of-room settlement. In that case, if any party is breached, the other party should refile the case based on the settlement agreement. The court and arbitration procedure shall be resumed if the cancellation is failed. Of course, legally speaking, all the terms in the cancellation, during the cancellation, are not binding, but of course may cause some impact.
Tim, may I just step in? Because I would like to share with you one thing which can be very practical, because I was speaking with one Czech corporation which was doing business in China. And that is why I asked Tim for this, basically on this issue. Because this corporation, they basically had a dispute with their employee. And the employee basically did not have right for compensation, and he was claiming that he was fired without a reason and illegally, basically. And the law itself was on the side of the Czech corporation, without any doubts. The problem was that this dispute went basically to one of the courts on the west, in the west of China. So the Czech corporation, without any problems, they went to the court, and they thought, okay, we will fight, and we'll win the case without any problems, because the law was on their side. But when they came to the court, the first thing judge asked them was, I understand your arguments, but let's settle. So how much you will give to your employee? And they said, we will not give anything, because we are in right. We've got justice on our side. And judge basically replied, okay, I understand, but how much you will give to your employee? And it happens 3 times again and again. So what I'm trying to say, and this is something what I wanted to ask Tim, is something very different, because the concept of justice itself is very different in China and very different in Europe. It's basically for people who never lived in China, they cannot understand how justice sometimes operates, and that the judges try to mediate the dispute and help both parties to move forward. This is something very typical, and that is something what I wanted to address, because European businessmen, and especially American ones, they do not understand this concept, and they will basically fight until the end when somebody will win. This is something what might not happen in China, and that is why I asked him on conciliation.
So I will give you the two examples, which both examples are very famous in China. One is an Apple case. Was heard about 1 or 2 years ago. So Apple lost a big money. The deal was like this. For iPad trademark, IPAD. So the iPad was originally in China, is registered by a Taiwan company called the Taiwan ProView. So the Apple, they engaged an IP company to buy all these, not a significant money. They buy all these, they sign agreements. The agreement was signed by Taiwan ProView, and and the person controlling the Taiwan ProView. So on behalf of all the group of companies who are sister companies of this group. So Apple believe all that, that's fine. So because this contract was signed by Taiwan company who has trademark registration around the world, signed by the controlling person on behalf of all the subsidiaries in the group. So it's fine. So that's typical in the world. But they forgot. There's a Shenzhen ProView company that use the same trade name. But literally speaking, these two companies have no connection. So they both controlled, owned by the controlling person. But between the company itself, no direct connection, no equity connection, no contractual connection. So they separate. And the iPad trademark was registered in China mainland by this company. That's the problem. So Apple believe they signed over a comprehensive agreement covering all the jurisdiction, covering every aspect of the transfer, but ignore. So the mark in China was registered by a sister company. They have no direct equity relationship. That's the problem. So whether Apple promote iPad in China, we talk about the billions of dollars market in China. So they figure out the problem. So they go to the first instance court. They try to receive the ownership of the iPad trademark, but they fail. So because two theories basically. First, China is a first to file jurisdiction. First to file means you have to register. Your trademark right relies on the registration, unless you are a well-known mark. So you don't have trademark right in China. So that's why we encourage all the foreign investors to register their marks to avoid the situation, etc. Yeah, China is the first to file jurisdiction. Without filing, they have no trademark right. The second, the Shenzhen company, literally speaking, is independent to the Taiwan company based on very traditional, long-term theory. So they're independent. So the companies and the person signing the transfer agreement is not binding upon this company because this company is Chinese company. So and Chinese company own the mark. So that means the settlement does not cause any impact to the transfer. So this made the Apple very angry. And even before that, they filed a lawsuit in Hong Kong. Of course, Hong Kong court is in favor of Apple. Believe the Taiwan company and the Chinese company, they are in bad faith. This is they have some strong wording against the Taiwan company. But in China, we have different view. So a appeal was made with the appellate court. At that time, the appellate court gave lots of pressure on the Apple. Political, legal, so refer. So eventually, Apple gave up, and they agreed to pay 60 million, big amount of money, probably the compensation amount in record in the history. So 50 million US dollars, and they pay. Well, of course, they receive the mark, complete the mark transfer. So this case gave a lot of lessons. So first is about trademark law, how the Chinese court, and second, how the Chinese court system run for a case like such. So we don't use the word help, but they really, Apple is subject a lot of extension pressures from Chinese court before they make the agreement, because they want to promote iPad, they have a very timely pressures, so they gave up. Another case is about arbitration. Not only the conciliation is not only popular with the court system, but also popular in arbitration. That's the case was heard in like 2010, very famous. The case relates to a share transfer agreement. The arbitration took place in Xi'an arbitration. It's one of the 180 arbitration center in China, commencing in July 2009. The tribunal was made up with 2 arbitrators from Beijing and 1 from Xi'an. The 2 arbitrators from Beijing are very famous. So one of the guys is professor, and he was the honorable chairman of Beijing arbitration. Very famous. People recognize him very well. Where one of the Beijing arbitrator, one of the arbitrator is China. So the third party from Beijing is the chairman of the tribunal. At the end of the first hearing, the parties were agreeable for mediation. Mediation conciliation, how to say. Yeah, they say, oh, we agree, we don't want to take time and spend money or time on arbitration like this. They agree. The tribunal authorized the Xi'an arbitrator, one of the tribunal, to organize, to preside over the conciliation. That's interesting. To facilitate the conciliation, the Xi'an arbitration, with consent of the 2 additional arbitrators, the other 2, invite the chief secretary of Xi'an Arbitration Commission to work together. That's very unique. So, because they are based in Xi'an arbitration, they were heard by Xi'an Arbitration Commission, so they invite the secretary in general to participate, which is allowed by the rules. Sounds weird, but it is a problem in China. More weird thing is, on that day, the negotiation was carried out at a dinner in Shangri-La Hotel. That's very Chinese style. Yeah, the negotiation not in the courtroom, not in the arbitration institute, but in the very expensive hotel, in the party, in the dinner. And the negotiation was participated by the Xi'an arbitrator, the chief secretary, yeah, not arbitrator, the chief secretary, and a close friend of the party. So of course the friend is, yeah, this party is supposedly lost the case. So he was invited, of course, make some pressure on him. So look at the negotiation by the 3 people. The Xi'an arbitrator, no problem, because he was authorized by the tribunal. The chief secretary, yeah, he's not a member of the tribunal, but he was invited. And a close friend, not the lawyer, not the equity owner of the party. Eventually, the negotiation failed because this party believed the proposed compensation amount was too high, and a couple of months later, like 3 months later, the tribunal issued an award with significant difference to the proposed amount. This is not resolved. This is a significant difference. So that's the case. That's cost problem.
Can I ask you, would it be possible to somehow close it, because we are running slightly out of time?
Okay.
I know that you got also conclusions there.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what about when I finish this, I will finish. That's a real case, very famous.
I know.
Yeah. So when I finish this, I will close my presentation. Yeah. Lots of legal procedure was taken afterwards. The first one is filed with the Xi'an court, because that's where the Xi'an Arbitration Commission is located. Eventually, they go to the Hong Kong court. There's 2 levels. The first level is the Supreme Court, and eventually heard by the appellate court. The Supreme Court reject the arbitration award, and the appellate court recognized 2 issues: is whether the Xi'an arbitration the award of Xi'an Arbitration Commission contains so-called apparent BAs, particularly because the chief secretary is not a party, and the meant like a dinner. So you do the negotiation and the settlement mediation at a dinner, is that proper? And second, whether the enforcement of the said award can be set aside on the ground of public policy. Public policy is often used as a reason to set aside by arbitration award, but it's rarely successful. So eventually the Hong Kong appellate court say, no. So yes, I know the manner they handle the mediation is really, you feel don't comfortable in Hong Kong, but that's cultural difference. So it doesn't necessarily cause BAs. And these enforcement of award like such does not necessarily cause public policy concern. Of course, this is a very professional way. We can come up with lots of debates about this. So that 2 cases gave the people impression of how a conciliation may take place in China. We talked about both conciliation before the court and the conciliation before arbitration. Yeah, so I'm finished here. So it's almost finished. It's about enforcement. General advice is Chinese court, like a governmental agency, and less independent. Generally speaking, courts in Shanghai, Beijing, Guangzhou are more reliable. And the CTEC and other like Shanghai Arbitration International Center, Beijing Arbitration Center are more professional. Many unexpected factors may impact court judgment. Yeah, so you need a good lawyer and among all others, you need to have some basic fundamental understanding about Chinese dispute resolution system and its culture. The better you know, the better chance we will see, the better opportunity you can success in China. Okay, that's about my,
Thank you very much. And I do have a suggestion because we do have basically two parts today. One is legal and second one is business. And with these three guests, because we did not have so much time for questions, I suggest to have a coffee break right now so you can speak with them. They really collected a huge amount of experience. And then after the coffee break, we'll move into more business-oriented part as well, because as I shared with you, there will be people who are doing business in China from the business side. So please let's take a 10 or 15 minutes coffee break, and we will continue afterwards. Thank you very much.